let's assume we split the Army in half, gave them exactly the same resources, exactly the same manpower, exactly the same tanks, jets, air support, everything.
The men would probably win.
Men on one side, women on the other, who wins?
I don't know, because there's been some amazing...
Come on.
The men would probably win.
Amy, Lieutenant, you do know.
And that's when the cognitive dissonance comes in.
I'm sorry, I disagree.
Generally speaking, men are going to be far better suited for that role.
I guarantee you I can lift more than you can.
Which means...
I guarantee you I can lift more. Look how big she is. If he could literally just like tap her in the face and she'd be off that chair on the floor. Really? The question for you today is, should women in the military be in forward combat roles or not? Now, my feeling is that they should be primarily regulated to support roles. Let me be clear. It is not my intention to offend any groups of people, of women or any other, in the military. Now we're going to get into the main event. All right. Next clip I'm going to show you is a group of women in a fierce debate on the Access Vegas podcast with Rollo Tomassi, of course, on women and their role in the military. Let's get into it.
With 3 military veterans at the table tonight, can I ask everyone's opinion on equalizing the military draft to include registering 18-plus-year-old women? Also, for the Alex fans, Andrew, please don't obfuscate. Love you, Crucible Commander-in-Chief. Vets, what do you think?
First of all, in case you're unaware, the bright blonde in the middle here doing the fist pump, okay, that's Amy. She's doing the fist pump because she's all for women being drafted. Drafted. Hey, let's keep it going.
Vets, what do you think?
Yes, women should be drafted. And if you don't know this already, other countries are already requiring 2 years. Italy is an example of that.
Finland is like that.
Yeah.
Israel is like that.
Yes, women should be in the military draft if there's one.
Okay. Anybody else?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
At the very least, they should be held to the same standards of selective service.
Totally
Go Rollo. That's my man. If women are going to be drafted, are they going to be held to the same standards as men?
What do you think?
I don't think that women should vote or should be drafted.
Ooh,
so I would remove the responsibility arc from women when it comes to voting and when it comes to being drafted. I think that the military is far better with women in support roles. I think that law enforcement's far better with women in support roles and not in primary roles. So no, I completely disagree. I would eliminate the draft for women, but I'd also eliminate some other things like voting and some other things like that.
I got to tell you,
if you don't know who that is, that's the Crucible, okay? He has his own podcast. Now, let me tell you something. Never in my life would I have thought that I'd be in a position to be sitting on my own podcast agreeing with that statement.
I got to tell you just one critical position that a woman played in Afghanistan in the middle of a war zone in a way that a man could never. And that is, during the day, in many villages in Afghanistan, the men go away to work, which leaves behind villages full of women and kids by themselves, okay?
Just
and
like
what happens is you need a woman to go into those spaces in the middle of a war zone to go have conversations with those women for intel purposes, General McChrystal, winning hearts and minds, you name it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's religious reasons that men cannot speak to those women. You need women that can be on the front lines. You need women to do those jobs.
So that's still a support role.
It is not.
It is.
My friend, it is not. I was part of an 8...
People, the fact that this woman was a first lieutenant and did a 16-year run in the military, and she doesn't understand that what she is describing is a support role is scary. Okay? That is scary.
Woman-female engagement team. I promise you nothing about...
Hold on.
Support role.
It is not.
It is.
My friend, it is not. I was part of an 8-woman female engagement team. I promise you nothing about my job was a support role.
So...
She was part of... Remember what you're watching, please, guys. I'm asking you, I'm begging you to just make sure you're paying close attention here, okay? She is saying that she was a part of an all-women engagement team. Now, what does that sound like? Now, I'm not in the military. My father is. My father was a veteran. I have lots of people, lots of friends that served in the military and are currently serving in the military. A statement like that tells me that she was on the front line. I mean, an engagement team? I mean, what was she, a Navy SEAL? A Ranger? What does that mean?
Let me ask you a question, like an honest question. Are the standards in the United States Army for women and their physical readiness and fitness less than that of men in combat roles?
Okay, so
Yes.
Believe me, I've been debating this since I was 17 years old. I'm happy to talk to you about this. Yes, to answer your question.
All right, is there
Hold on,
a
wait.
I just want to finish this one point.
Okay.
Is there a single female Navy SEAL?
Yeah, there is actually.
is.
Yeah.
I thought there was one female ranger. Is there a female
there's
SEAL?
multiple.
There is absolutely not one single Navy SEAL as a woman in the military. Kristen Grice is an honorary Army Ranger. We'll get into that later. But remember what she's saying. This is a 16 years in the military, okay? She's a spokesperson for the Army. She's running around saying, absolutely, there are Navy SEALs. Of course, there are women Navy SEALs. Oh, of course, there are Kristen Grice. She's an Army Ranger.
Oh, no, sorry. I cannot name any off the top of my head, but that is not because there's not. There definitely is.
I don't think there's a single female Navy SEAL that's actually gone through basic underwater demolition school and passed it.
Someone Google
Okay,
it.
well, hold on a second, because now we're getting into women even being allowed to even try, okay?
They're allowed to try.
Okay, but I know the dates.
Now, they are allowed to try. We've seen that. They are definitely allowed to try.
Okay, but I know the dates and timelines on this shit. So 2016 was the first year women were even allowed to even attempt to go into those roles. And I was actually one of those first women that even went to go through the schools for it. When I went through OCS, I was going through OCS with the intent to become one of the first female infantry officers, okay? It took me asking 8 years in a row to even go to air assault school, okay? And I got denied, I was multiple things in the military, but I was in for 16 years. But what's really, really important is I asked for 8 years to go, and I met not just meet the physical requirements. The physical requirements are on a scale of 0 to 300. I not only maxed it at 300 on the women's scale, which I'll give you that, but I went over that, and I met what the 18-year-old males were doing. I was running 2 miles in 12 minutes, which is 6-minute miles. That's pretty fucking fast, okay? And I did that as a very, very capable, qualified female. I still wasn't allowed to go to air assault school. Here's the reason why.
No, here's the reason why you were not allowed to go to air assault school. Are you looking at the stature of this woman? What do you think she weighs? I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt. She looks pretty tall. She's long. She's extremely lean. I mean, I'd say she has like maybe 3% body fat on her. Take a look at this body, okay? Not a single glute muscle in sight here. Look at this. I mean, first of all, she's wearing Converse sneakers, all right? I mean, I don't know who does this in Converse sneakers, all right? People, what are we talking about here? This woman is beyond delusional. And we're not talking about running 4-minute miles, okay? We're talking about running for long periods of time, okay? Carrying a massive amount of weight, like an injured soldier for miles and miles and miles and miles. Do you remember the movie Forrest Gump? Do you remember the movie Forrest Gump? Do you remember Lieutenant Dan? Okay. Do you remember how skinny Forrest Gump is in the movie? He's like this big. Forrest Gump carried Lieutenant Dan for miles and saved his life. Remember, she's sitting here talking about how fast she can run around a track. Is this for real here?
I fully agree with women being held to the same standard as male, but yes, we do have physical differences. That does not mean in today's age that we can't fight the same way.
Let me ask you
Did you hear that?
a logical question. The United States military was separated by men and women, and there was a internal conflict, an internal war where half of the army went against the other half. They had the same resources, same everything. One half was women, one half was men. Which one would win overwhelmingly?
So, sorry, can you say that question one more time?
Yeah.
She needed to think about that, huh? Let me bring it back.
So, sorry, can you say that question one more time?
Yeah. Let's assume we split the army in half, gave them exactly the same resources, exactly the same manpower, exactly the same tanks, jets, air support, everything.
The men would probably win.
Men on one side, women on the other. Who wins?
I don't know, because there's been some amazing.
know.
Come on.
The men would probably
Amy,
win.
Amy, Lieutenant, you do know.
And that's when the
I'm
cognitive
sorry, I
dissonance
disagree.
comes
I'm
in.
sorry,
and
I disagree.
I just
First of all, look at Rollo over here. He is eating this up. He is just looking at her like, boy, I know how to pick him for my podcast. How many clicks is this going to get? What are my watch hours going to be on this one? He's making money because this woman's delusional. The fact that she's even sitting here doing this and having this conversation is ridiculous. You're talking about somebody that is supposed to be knowledgeable of what actually goes on in the military. I mean, what was she doing in the military? I'd love to know.
There's some incredible women leading strategic battles right now today. Today. In fact, the Navy is led by a woman today.
I agree. But there's
the chief of staff.
Right. But my point is,
and it goes down.
There aren't enough.
Keep going down the ranks.
Right. But there aren't, by comparatively, there aren't enough of
hand-to-hand combat. Men would win.
Okay. Right. But there aren't enough like female tank commanders that went to NTS. And
we didn't get the opportunity to even go.
But that's okay. Right.
We didn't get the opportunity to go. You didn't get the opportunity to go because there was no purpose in wasting my tax money on you going. Hello? What is this, some kind of game? Do you feel comfortable about that? Do the other men in the military, anybody in the military that gets to see this, I want you to message me. Please comment. Would you feel comfortable being in the military with her on the front line? I'd feel comfortable with her being in the military as a nurse.
Right, but that's the point is there aren't enough women to where you'd be able to pull that
time, yeah.
Well, let's just take it to the next level.
I don't care if you had 10 times the amount of women against 1/4 of the men. You're not winning that war, ladies, ever.
Let's assume there was, and it was totally equalized. The force was equalized as far as you had all the same resources, the exact number of women to men, the exact same amount of technology. You still think women would even have a chance?
Absolutely, they have a chance.
Well, that's when the cognitive dissonance gets to the point where I just disconnect.
We went to the...
She makes no sense. How could you actually say, did you look at her? I mean, come on, people. She's like 100. She's anorexic. She's like the poster freaking child for Ozempic right now. Okay? Everybody in Hollywood that's like 40 pounds underweight, you're looking at her. I mean, she really should be modeling for Ozempic because she looks sick.
Ridiculous.
This is kind of my wheelhouse. What specifically are you talking about? We went to the moon because of a woman. What specifically do you want?
The whole bunch of mathematicians that were behind that.
So there was an office of astrodynamics, if you will.
This is where you're losing me. You don't need to make fun. You can educate me. You don't need to make fun.
There were 600,000 people that worked on Gemini.
Of course.
And 98% of them were men.
But again, because men would not let women go into the positions that they rightfully deserve to go into.
We didn't land on the moon specifically because of a woman. Now, there were some like calculations that had to be redone, especially like during Apollo 13. And yes, in that office the women were literally called calculators. That's what the name of them were. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, I'm not trying to disparage them because obviously I'm a big fan of anybody who did that in the moon landing. But the reality of the situation is it wasn't the majority. It wasn't even one.
That girl right there that's drinking that drink, I know what she's thinking. She's like, Lord, I hope the draft doesn't come. God, I've worked on myself. Like, I'm just hoping people are on my OnlyFans right now finding me. And like, I mean, think about it. Do you really think that girl right there, she's stunningly gorgeous, right? Do you think she wants to be drafted?
Women should serve a minimum of 2 years, like many other countries do. There's so many incredible essential roles that could be that they could fulfill.
But those countries' fighting forces are underwhelming in comparison to our volunteer force, and our volunteer force is mostly of 18 to 23-year-old males, and they are extremely skilled at their jobs.
And so are the women.
They're also very physically fit. This is the big thing.
So are the women.
If you have tanks, and tanks are in a big fight with each other,
I have to disagree with you on the mostly physically fit.
Is she nuts?
They're
our
far
force
more
is getting-
physically fit than
that.
they're far more physically fit than the females who are in the military. Yes,
There are a lot of
across the
shitbag
board.
men,
Wait a second.
too.
We weren't talking about genders just a
There are a
second
lot
ago.
of-
No, I was actually bringing this back to say, let's just say you had tanks, just I don't know, 2,000 tanks on both sides, an all-female versus all-male army.
Who's to
Just-
say my tank can't blow your tank?
yeah,
right
okay,
out?
hang on, let me finish.
Yeah.
Blow your tank?
I
Yeah,
agree.
Okay, I get it.
Then
You
you're
blow the
gone.
tank up.
But
Who's
a
going to
man
lift
built
up
the
the
tank.
big
You live in the
heavy ass
military, right?
shell?
Yeah, a
I
man
actually
built the
think
tank.
that all the women
Who's going to
here
lift the
could-
big heavy ass
Me.
shell?
It's not that
Can you look
heavy.
something up?
You're going to take
So,
lift
real
the
quick,
heavy ass shell.
like,
Even just doing the grind maintenance requirements for like, let's put this tread back on while we're in the field. Let's carry these really heavy shells up this hill by the 100. All of those are also physical requirements of soldiers. And while you may be an exception to the rule, generally speaking, men are going to be far better suited for that role.
I guarantee you, I
that
can
they
lift more than you can.
Which means
I guarantee you I can lift more. Look how big she is. If he could literally just like tap her in the face and she'd be off that chair on the floor. Really?
that ultimately, even if you could, what the fuck would that have to do with anything?
Because you're making a general statement that a
Because
man
we're
can
talking
do it,
about a general statement.
But I know, but you're saying just because of a man, you suck, literally,
Okay.
like from head to toe.
Great argument.
Like I guarantee you, I can lift more than you.
Is it? I got another super chat here.
Scary. That girl is scary.
I got another super chat here. I want to know if this is true. Rusty Fuel says
You got me.
Israel tried using women in combat, but they stopped because they took too many casualties.
They were killing it. I was following that story for a while. They were really doing an amazing job.
Is she for real? Did she not just hear what Rollo actually just said? First of all, I know about this story. Many of you probably do as well. Did you hear her? He is telling everyone there that Israel took women off combat because everyone was getting killed, meaning their team. They were getting soldiers killed. And she's sitting here talking about what an amazing job they were doing. I was following the story. What land are you on? What planet are you? She's on the moon. Because if she was following that story and she's sitting here talking about she did an amazing job, I don't know which side you're working for, honey. Palestine, America, or Israel. You tell us. Ridiculous.